This is Mary Potter Taylor. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hello from Point of Rock Studios, and on behalf of Project 90 over 90, I am Rob Sumner. Tonight we interview Mary Potter Taylor. Ms. Taylor is a resident of Gastonia, North Carolina, was born on September the 26th, 1921 in Pointville, New Jersey. She moved to Gastonia with her husband, Thomas Hudson Taylor, and has lived here for approximately 47 years. She has, with her husband, run Carolina Floral Imports, a local business. She has raised 5 children, 10 grandchildren, and 15 great-grandchildren. Thank you for being here, Mrs. Taylor.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your early life and where you grew up and where you were born and what it was like living in Pointville, New Jersey. Tell me what about your family.
My family. I have a mother and a father, one brother and one sister. And I lived in a farm outside of a small village. And,
How big was Pointville?
well, probably 600 or 700 families surrounding.
Now, what did your parents do for a living? Did your mom work?
Not then, not till all the children left. Then she worked in a post office.
All right. And how about your dad? What did he do for a living?
Well, he was a farmer.
So you actually lived on a working farm. What kind of farm was it?
Well, basically it was vegetable farming. He had a contract with Campbell Soup, and we would take truckloads of tomatoes in. You had to be there like 4 o'clock in the morning, and if they didn't pass their test, they'd dump them in the Delaware River. That's what they told us anyway. And we also had about 4 or 5 chicken houses, and we would take crates of eggs to Mount Holly, New Jersey, to the farmers market. We didn't sell them, we just sent them to the market, and they sold them.
So did you work on the farm? Were you part of the crew?
Oh, when you're on a farm, you had to.
So what would be a day like when you were a kid of 10 years
Well, you
old?
always had animals. We had 2 cows, 3 horses. I had a baby goat and a dog, and everything had to be fed, and there was always weeds that had to pull, and you always had to help with the housework, Always had to help with the dishes and make your beds and clean.
Now, did you do this all the time going, I guess you attended public school?
Yes.
So you would get up before school and work?
No.
All right. You
Didn't work before school.
Okay.
No.
You'd work for school and then come home and you would have chores to do.
Right.
Now, where did you attend high school?
Pemberton, New Jersey.
Okay.
To take a bus to go there.
All right. And did you attend, how many grades were
12.
12 grades? So you
Right.
went through high school, and after high school, did you ever work outside the farm? Did you ever have a paid job during those
The
years?
first thing I had was a paper route with about 20 people.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, in the summertime, there was a big blueberry field called White's Bog. And Mrs. White was the owner, and they brought all kind of pickers in. They had homes for them to stay. And my sister and I would go down, and we were in the blueberry sheds. I had to top the blueberries, and she would put the cellophane and the tape around them.
Now, your sister, you're 92, is that right? Or 93?
I'm 93.
And she is 96?
96.
And she still lives in New Jersey?
Right.
So y'all worked together, and how much did you make? Do you remember?
I don't remember that.
Not much,
No,
I take it.
No.
Now, when you was that a summer job or
Right.
was that?
Oh, yes. That's just
Okay.
when the blueberries were ripe.
All right.
After school.
And now Pointville has an interesting history. I believe that you at some point in time Pointville went away.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Well, we just had one church and one store and 2 one little ice cream store and a convenience store. And
How many residents?
you got me there. I don't know. I'd have to count them. Well, if I had 6 or 7 homes, everybody had at least 3 children. You know,
Okay.
you multiply it.
All right.
That's your job.
I'll do that later. So
So in Fort Dix, after the war started, McGuire Field was the airfield with Fort Dix, and they had to enlarge the runways. So the government bought the whole town and all the surrounding farms. And I don't remember that because I was at the hospital. I don't remember any of the move. I don't know where everybody went except close friends that we knew.
So the town essentially
Town's
was
gone.
taken over by the McGuire
Fort
Bay,
Dix.
Fort Dix.
Fort Dix.
And so there is no more Pointville.
No, none. Just a cemetery is all that's left.
All right.
Right.
So when you go back to New Jersey, you go to Mount Holly or some of the nearby towns to visit?
Right now it's Columbus, New
Columbus,
Jersey.
all right.
Right.
Now, what was when you were a young child? Did y'all have a truck, a car? How did you get around?
Truck.
You did.
Yeah, it had a farm. My father used to have a Buick, but I don't know whether it broke down and he put it in one of the farm buildings. And when my brother got older, he got it started, and we used to drive all around it in the farm.
So use it as a farm vehicle.
Yeah, well, just for fun.
Now, did y'all take vacations, family vacations?
No,
You didn't. So
no.
you
My
stayed.
mother was originally from down around Manasquan, the beach in New Jersey, and we used to go there once in a while, but not to stay overnight.
Just for day vacation.
Yeah.
So you essentially stayed home or went to school. What else did you do for entertainment?
Well, basically, it was with the church. We always had a lot of company coming.
What was your what religion or what?
Methodist.
You were Methodist.
Right,
All right.
right,
And there was a Methodist church in Pointville,
right,
and that's where your social life was
right.
centered.
right.
All right.
They had a special building for. They always had church dinners and things, and you had to help up. And we always had picnics. We always went away for the picnics, and everybody went. No matter what religion you were, they were all invited, and everybody went to the picnic, whether you were Jewish or Catholic.
What kind of child were you? Do you call whether or not you were?
Bad one, probably.
You were. Well, did you require a lot of discipline? What kind of discipline did you was
Well, if I was
used?
real bad, I used to have to go get a cherry stick, and it stung terrible.
Uh-huh.
Outside that,
So who would spank you?
my mother.
She would.
Oh yeah, my father wouldn't. My mother.
So your mother was in charge of the
Oh, yes.
corporal punishment.
Yeah, yeah. She knew how to do it too.
Did she?
Yeah.
How often were you punished like
Not
that?
very often.
You
I was pretty good.
How about your sister?
Oh, she never did anything bad.
She didn't?
Just my brother and I.
So y'all the two that got in trouble?
Yeah, always.
Now, you lived in Pointville and you graduated from high school, as you've indicated. And what did you do when you got out of high school?
I went to Mercy, Philadelphia Methodist Hospital.
So you moved to the big city.
Right.
And what was that like?
I got homesick the first night.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, what did you do about that?
Nothing.
You didn't?
No, I got to meet the other girls, you know.
So what were you there for?
Trained to be a nurse.
All right. Had the war started? World War II started?
No.
What year was this?
1939.
All right. So things were happening in Europe but had not
No.
made it over here yet.
No.
And you stayed in nursing school for how long?
3 years.
So during the time that you were in nursing school, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, is that
Yeah,
right?
well, I was. You had to serve 3 months in a mental hospital, and I was in the mental hospital when that happened.
Do you remember what it was like?
I just remember hearing it on the radio when I was just working. You couldn't do anything but go to work regardless.
Now, shortly thereafter, of course, the United States declared war on the Japanese, and the Germans declared war on the United States, and then we
Right.
declared war on the Germans. Did that change anything you did about your day-to-day life in any
No,
way?
No,
So you continued to your nursing
Yeah.
education,
right,
and that lasted 3 years till 1942.
right.
And after you graduated, what happened?
I worked at the hospital until 1943.
A hospital in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
What was the name of the
No,
hospital?
no, it's one in New Jersey.
Oh.
Just temporarily, because 3 of us had signed up to go in the service.
And that included you?
Yeah,
And who else?
Libby, another nurse, and Mary Schreffler, another nurse.
And what did that mean if you signed up to go into the service?
Well, that meant we had to wait until we got notice where to go. And that wasn't until August of 1943.
And you received a notice, and where did they send you?
Drewfield, Tampa, Florida.
Now, had you ever been to Florida before?
No,
Were you commissioned as an officer?
yeah.
And what
Second lieutenant.
so you wore an Army nursing uniform with lieutenant bars on your
Right.
uniform?
Right.
And what did you do down in Tampa?
Same thing. Was just a nurse.
In the hospital?
Right. Well, they had separate barracks for different things wrong with the patients.
Did you live in, when you say a barracks, so the patient was that's where the patients were housed?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. They might be surgery in this one, and they might be medical and something.
Mental?
Some, yeah, just very few mental.
Now, Mary, we were talking about your business, Carolina Floral Imports, and Tom bought that in the mid-'60s, and here in Gastonia, North Carolina. Is that correct?
Right.
Did you eventually leave your nursing job and go to work in the company?
Yes.
And tell me just generally what kind of business it was.
Importing artificial flowers. Originally, they came from Germany, paper flowers, wax paper flowers, and a few from Hong Kong. And then, of course, we kind of rode it up. The artificial flower business grew, and we went up with it.
It was a good business.
Right.
I'm sure you worked hard. Tom, was he more the salesperson,
Right.
and you were the office manager?
No, we had another one at that time, Betty Martin.
Oh, okay.
And I helped her. Actually, I'd help unload the trucks. I'd do anything.
So you actually got out and got the
Everything.
hand trucks and
Right.
unloaded the trucks.
That and office work, too.
And I guess this job and business entailed some travel, involved travel.
Right.
Did you get to travel as a result of this business?
Right.
Where did you go?
Well, I went to Taiwan, went to Hong Kong, went to Macau, and you want to hear the other places?
Oh, yeah. Tell me where you went.
Well, went to Brazil, and I went to England twice, France twice, Germany twice, and once to Italy.
Well, Tom liked to travel generally. He was someone who liked to be on the move, I take it.
Right. Oh, all the time. Even, United States, he liked to go. He'd travel. And,
Oftentimes without notice to you, is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you remember any funny stories about having to live with someone like Tom who liked to move without notice, without a schedule?
Well, I can remember one time when we lived in Drexel Hill, I think it was Tommy that had,
Sure, your oldest son.
I forget what he had. He either had chicken pox or measles or something, and he took off with Jimmy, went out to get something, and the last I heard from him, he was up in North Adams, Massachusetts.
You mean he left the home?
Yeah. Called me later and said where he was. I thought, oh, I wonder what happened to him.
So he left the home and didn't come back.
Right.
And next thing you know, he's in Mass.
Right.
Was that not unusual?
Right.
Uh,
No. Also, I went to Canada and Puerto Rico. I went to Canada twice. I was 15 years old, I think. And when my mother and they had friends in Buffalo, New York. We took a bus to Buffalo, New York. And the next day they drove us to Toronto. And they went back, and I got on the train in Toronto and got off at nighttime in Temagami. And my friends, the conductor was concerned. He says, "Where are you going to go?" I said, "Well, somebody's supposed to meet me." And they were there, and we had to go 17 miles by boat to their island. And they had their own home, and they had a big lodge, and they had about 10 individual cottages, or cabins, I guess you would call them then, on this island, which was their business, you know, and they had a lot of people there at the summertime. And they would go out in his launch, and he would have about 4 boats behind it, and we'd go out for an all-day fishing trip, and we'd go on to another island and set up everything that they caught fish, and you had to cook it. And you could always take potatoes and bacon only, and if you had fish, you ate fish. And for sometimes weekends we would go to Bear Island, which was a trading post, and we'd have square dancing. It was an unusual, great trip. Let's go on to something else.
Well, that was it before you met Tom, though, right?
Oh yeah, I was 15 years old.
Well, just to try to conclude, we mentioned earlier that you were married for many, many years, over 65 years.
Right.
Do you have can you tell us what made for a successful marriage all those years?
No, I don't know.
You don't?
Oh, we just agreed, I guess.
Did you always agree?
Oh, well, yeah.
You did?
I always did what he said, I guess. That was the easiest way.
Was it?
Yeah. When you get somebody that's just never had any brothers or sisters, you know, it's usually their way.
Right.
Right.
Right. But it was usually the right way, too, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
And then the other question I wanted to
I
ask you.
disagreed. I kept it to myself.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well, that's also a great sign of a great mother-in-law as well. You never disagree with me either.
No.
The other question I wanted to ask you was, you're 93, but you look and act like you're a much younger person. And have you ever thought about why you are so alert and have such a long and healthy life? And have you done anything? You have any bits of wisdom that you want to share with anybody about that?
No. If I knew the answer to that, I'd bottle it and sell it.
Okay. Well, you've taken good care of yourself.
Yeah, try to.
And you've worked hard.
Right.
And you've raised your family.
Right.
Well, I want to thank you for coming. I know this was something that you probably agreed to do because I'm married to your daughter.
Right.
But I hope that you've enjoyed it, and we will see you on the internet.
Great.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.